Welcome to episode 18 of Too Much Coffee. We're talking about the Batman. We're talking about Robert Pattinson's turn as the Batman, Matt Reeves' directorial version of the Batman. We both went to the theater and saw it. I was very excited because it's the first time I've been to the theater in a long time. You saw it first.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see it, but I probably would have just waited for it to stream.
Mm-hmm.
But then you went to see it. Now I want to go to the theater. So I started thinking about it. And then some plans fell through. It was perfect. I had the whole day open and nothing to do. This is a great movie to watch in the theater because you just get to sit there with it, look in front of this giant screen and just soak up the vibe. Somehow Matt Reeves managed to produce a fresh take on the character. It seems impossible, I know. But the man somehow did it. This is the most believable version of Batman I think has ever existed. If there was ever a man who ever actually became the Batman, he would probably act like Robert Pattinson does in this movie. The Riddler has a plan. He starts killing people. He starts killing politicians. And he's leaving clues for the Batman. And the Batman is now engaged in this battle of the wits with the Riddler, trying to track him down, trying to stop him from killing any more high-profile people. And then the Riddler targets him, or more specifically, targets Bruce Wayne. And then some terrible things happen, and we have our big, third act showdown, and then the Riddler gets, thrown in Arkham Asylum. So this version of the Batman, unlike a goofy, super comic book version, Christian Bale was his version was more realistic. But still, as a person, his version of Batman is way too normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to be a Batman, you're going to be, there's something wrong.
Well, that's what I liked about the Robert Pattinson Batman. He's like, he's a little out of his mind, and he's also kind of out of touch. He doesn't really, understand why people commit crime, as opposed to he just thinks he can go beat the bad guys up.
Let's go through some of these characters, okay? Alfred. Andy Serkis plays Alfred. Alfred is really not in the movie enough that he makes a gigantic impression, but I like Andy Serkis a lot. I think he did a great version of Alfred. I think he did a great job. He plays an Alfred that has depth, gravitas.
Yeah.
His arc in the movie is basically about him reconciling his feelings of inadequacy. Like, he feels like a replacement father for Bruce.
Yeah.
He feels like he's done a terrible job, which he reveals in that scene toward the end when he's in the hospital and Bruce is sitting there and confronts him about, lying to him about his parents and stuff like that. And that's when it all comes to a head, where he just feels like he's supposed to be the one taking care of Bruce, and he didn't even know what to do.
Yeah.
And couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He just wasn't up to the task. And
he kind of exists to push Bruce's character a little more, to give him a fuller picture of his dad.
Right. Right. And how could you step into the shoes of a man like Thomas Wayne?
Yeah.
Someone who was so high profile, so important, did so many things. Commissioner Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, who is always great.
True.
I think I like him in everything I've ever seen him do. He plays a serious Gordon, Gordon with really all of the characters in the show have gravitas. So I'll just say that up front instead of repeating myself every time, because I'll say it with every character. Every character in this movie has depth and gravitas. They're all heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You will not find one joke in this movie. There's one line that is half a joke. I chuckled at it.
Well, I wouldn't really call it humorless. It has its moments. It just doesn't have jokes.
I don't want to call it oppressive or dour, but I will say humorless in the sense that he's not cracking. This Batman is not cracking jokes.
Yeah, there's not one-liners.
He's not even smiling, as a matter of fact. But anyway, Commissioner Gordon, great job by Jeffrey Wright. He played him as a very serious, sort of stoic. This version of the Batman, we're 2 years into his career as the Batman. Yeah. And Jeffrey Wright, at the beginning of the movie, he still does not trust the Batman. He said, I don't even know who you are. I don't know anything about you. I don't trust you. How can I trust you if I don't know you? And this movie is the story of how he goes from that to learning to trust the Batman as like a partner. Yeah. In the end. But it's actually weird how it's weird. I've never seen a Batman movie where he is just hanging out with the cops so much.
Yeah.
I mean, in this movie, he is going to their crime scenes. They're all there. I mean, a lot of them don't want him there.
Yeah, yeah.
Gordon's the one. Lieutenant Gordon is the one who's making it happen. How that they don't bother to explain that. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's sort of interesting. I mean, most of the cops are like crooked. They're corrupt. But Gordon kind of is too, just in the other way towards Batman, because he sort of lets him into the crime scenes and he shields him from, accountability and stuff like that.
There's one line where Gordon says later that he's afraid that the Riddler is going to come after him.
Yeah,
and the Batman says he's never going to come after you because you're not corrupt.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's like the only, and I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
he corrupts the process in that he lets Batman freely interfere.
Yeah, yeah.
The bond between him and Batman is that they're both uncompromising.
Yeah.
And not incorruptible, basically. He's not going to take money. He's not going to take a bribe. He's not going to cut corners doing police work.
He believes in what he's doing.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Right. Good cop. Catwoman. Catwoman is very cool. Zoe Kravitz, I thought, was really cool as Catwoman.
Yeah, she's great. I like this Catwoman a lot.
She's got a great vibe. She's just cool.
Yeah.
Her acting was good. In this role, she did a great job. I've never seen her in anything else. I don't know what she's like generally, but she was very good.
I know I saw her in something else.
In this movie. Her character almost causes a problem for me. The whole movie is very grounded in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But her ability her abilities as a cat burglar and her abilities to fight, they've almost jumped the shark for me. That pulled me out of the movie just a little bit. I know it's I know it's a Batman movie.
Yeah.
It's a comic book movie. But
I didn't even think about it. It didn't even register to me.
In a world that feels more real and grounded, she fights a little too well for sort of a normal person.
Yeah.
And she's going to rob that. So she goes to open this safe and she's got all this equipment. She knows exactly what to do.
Yeah.
But otherwise she's like just a woman that works at a bar. It's like, I don't know. That's a bit much.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what her background is really.
Right.
We don't know how she learned all that stuff.
And they probably very wisely, nobody wants to hear that origin story again. And Matt Reeves didn't explain a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did she get her skills? Don't know. She just got them.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't really need the origin stories for everybody.
I've
heard them all.
You don't have to fill in all the pieces.
Yeah.
It's completely unnecessary. John Turturro is great as Falcone.
Of course.
It's funny because he sometimes plays really comedic, goofy, funny roles.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking to yourself, how is this guy going to be head gangster? But to me, he was pitch perfect.
Yeah.
He was just charismatic. He was charismatic, but he could be both charming and likable and ice cold.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I believed it both ways.
He was charming, but also slimy.
So slimy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I loved it when Batman went to see him later. So not Batman, but Bruce. Bruce Wayne goes back there to see him later and confront him about what happened to his dad. And he is so slick, so smooth. He doesn't flinch. And he tells a version of the events that is so good that you're watching it like, oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
He's got to be telling the truth. Listen to how sincere this guy sounds. That sounds perfectly plausible. And then after talking with Alfred, you realize, of course, he was completely as his self-serving lie.
Yeah.
And that's why he's the boss, because he can do that. He was amazing. I thought he was fantastic. And one good thing about him is they didn't show him too much, which would have ruined it. They showed him just enough so that you get an idea of how dangerous he is, of how charismatic he is, of how important he is, and that was it. It's perfect. Now the Penguin, Colin Farrell. Whoever thought you'd be saying that statement?
Yeah.
The Penguin, played by Colin Farrell. Colin, show your abs to the audience, please. Let's see those abs.
Unrecognizable as Colin Farrell in the
completely unrecognizable, both by voice or by appearance. You would never know.
Another great character, less charming than Falcone, but still slimy.
Here's what I was thinking about with the Penguin. He, if you really think about him and what he said and what he did, I'm thinking about this now, many days after having watched the movie. So somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking about the Penguin. He really was sort of a nothing character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He really had no real character. I'm talking about the way he was written.
Yeah.
And what he did in the movie. He was just like a thug. He was like a middle manager thug.
Yeah, he's a middleman.
But the way Colin Farrell played him, he felt like he has so much character.
Yeah.
And it's just because Colin Farrell does such a great job with him.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the only other moments of humor probably came from him, like when he's being chased.
Yeah.
And he's just freaking out in the car.
I
love that part.
That chase scene was great. That was absurd. The whole chase scene was crazy.
That's why you got to go see it in the theater. The sound of that car.
Yeah.
You are completely pumped. You're like, and everything's dark, so you can barely see it.
Yeah.
And most of that chase is all from the Penguin's point of view. So you feel like you're being chased by Batman. Yeah. I loved it.
It's raining. It's crazy.
He's like, I got you. I got you. And then, of course, here he comes.
Through the flames. Just,
and flips his car 42 times. That was so excellent. That moment, that was a great moment in the movie.
There was that, and later on where they have the Penguin tied up, and they just leave him there, and he's like walking outside because he's tied up. He looks like a penguin, trying to walk with his feet duct taped.
He's like, "Hey guys, you
gotta untie me here."
And they just walk away. They don't say a word. The Riddler, played by Paul Dano. Paul Dano is a very good actor. And he's one of these guys who's so committed to his craft that you can tell just by watching him on the screen. Yeah. As a matter of fact, during the filming of the movie, Paul Dano was requesting different shots. He's like, "Oh, let me try it this way. Oh, let me try it that way.
Yeah.
Oh, let me try." Supposedly, the scene where the Riddler is sort of giving that monologue into the phone, he recorded himself with his phone.
Yeah.
Supposedly, there was close to 200 takes of that scene, and it was simply because Paul Dano was like, "Oh, well." He was working it out, as he was doing it. So, well, maybe I could try this and maybe I could try that. And he just did it so many times. And that was not because of the director. That was because of Paul Dano.
Yeah.
And if you've seen him in other movies like There Will Be Blood, when he plays that preacher.
Yeah.
Intense character. So he comes at these characters with intensity.
Yeah.
And he comes at the Riddler with intensity. This ain't Jim Carrey.
No, it's an interesting Riddler for sure.
This ain't Frank Gorshin from the 1960s TV show. This ain't none of that. This is a Riddler who would be on. Think of the movie Seven. Think of an episode of Criminal Minds where they're chasing some insane serial killer.
Yeah.
That's this Riddler.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Sort of, I guess you would call him a genius, like a brilliant genius.
Yeah.
But also his beliefs. They don't give his whole backstory. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. I still don't want it.
Yeah.
But he somehow arrived at this place where he's an obviously brilliant man, but he's completely, I don't know if just his worldview changed enough that it just sent him completely out of whack, or if he was always that way and he just finally had had enough and he just leaned fully into what he was already thinking anyway.
Yeah, he came from that orphanage and he feels like he's forgotten and left behind.
Right.
And nobody's helping him.
That was
led him down the path of radicalization.
That was a great speech by him, and it did give you a lot of insight into his character where he's talking to Batman. He's like, "Oh, we talk about who's the orphan? Little Bruce Wayne?"
Yeah.
Rich Bruce Wayne with his nanny and his money.
Yep.
And he's like, "No, I'm the real orphan."
Yeah.
Talking about how he was poor and had to go to a home and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a good way to grow up. And all of that trauma just stayed with him his whole life.
Yeah.
And that mixed with he's neurotic and he's brilliant and he probably thinks too much and he doesn't have enough.
Yeah.
And of course the online component. So in this show, he gets involved in this online group, which further twists him because he finds all these people who agree with him 100%. They egg each other on. So anyway, all that to say, Paul Dano did a great job. The Riddler is an extremely scary character.
Yeah.
Very effective. He fell apart for me a little bit at the end when part of his plan was to be captured. I didn't get that. Maybe he felt like his work was done, and he thought it seemed like part of the plan was I want people to know me and remember me, and so if he doesn't allow himself to be captured, that's not going to happen. Maybe that was okay, but it just didn't sit quite right with me.
Yeah.
But he was great. He was a great villain. And of course, Mr. Robert Pattinson is the Batman. This version of Batman is intense.
Yeah.
I really don't know if I joked about it earlier, but I really don't know if he smiled a single time in the entire movie.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
I don't think he cracked a smile. And past versions of Batman, like Christian Bale, and in the comic books, going way back, Batman was a secret. Of course, nobody was supposed to know. And so to keep up appearances, he didn't want anybody to be, oh, what's this guy doing with all this time?
Yeah.
So to pretend and like fit in, he would go out to social events and he would host, he would have charities, and he would seem like a completely normal person.
Yeah.
That's what Christian Bale's Batman did. That's what they all did. This Batman does not do that.
Yeah.
This Batman, the few times that he actually goes out in public in this movie, he makes no effort whatsoever to be particularly polite or nice.
Yeah,
he doesn't smile at people.
He's a wreck.
He is 100% completely obsessed with his goal and his mission.
Yeah.
Which is the normal Batman mission: to save the city, to make it so that the things that happen to him never happens to anyone else ever again.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing, period.
Yeah, and it's that intent of, trying to stop and fight crime and to improve the city. But also with him, if you're going to be Batman, you got to be a little crazy. He's kind of crazy.
I think so. That's why I say that this version is the most real. Because to do what he's doing, if a person were to actually do something like that, you'd be a very atypical personality.
Yeah. Little screw loose.
Exactly.
And there's sort of an element of him just being out of touch because he's a billionaire Batman. He thinks they can just go out and like fight crime, but that's not really how you fight crime.
Right.
There are lots of structural problems that he needs to use the Wayne Foundation to solve, but he doesn't understand that yet.
Right. And
he's on his way to understand
it. That's why he can go out in public and act the way he does.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't need anybody for anything.
Yeah.
He's a billionaire. And he's on a mission, a solo mission. Otherwise, he's got Alfred and his accountants and his lawyers. He doesn't really need anything else.
Yeah.
So he can do that. He is immature in that way.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I want to add the city as a sort of character in the movie too.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotham City. This Gotham City, to me, feels different than any other Gotham City in any other movie. They're all dark. They're all gritty and crime-ridden, of course. That's the whole point. You couldn't have Batman if you didn't have a city like Gotham. But this city, was it just me or did this city feel different than the other ones? Like, it wasn't as gothic.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny is that the Batman's mansion, Bruce Wayne's mansion, felt very good. It almost like he was living in a gothic church.
Yeah.
But the city itself felt so scummy. It almost felt like New York, like a really scummy New York.
It was like 70s New York.
Exactly.
Yeah. You see a lot of the on the ground like poverty and crime in the city.
The city
for sure
was pitch perfect for what Matt Reeves was doing with this movie.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about some of our favorite moments. I don't want to do a plot summary, but I would like to talk about just some of the moments from the movie that I liked and disliked too. It's not a perfect movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's a very watchable movie. It's long, but I didn't feel the length of the movie at all.
Yeah, the length didn't really bother me.
Because there's so much happening and the pacing is so good, it doesn't feel long. So it's not a perfect movie, but I enjoyed it a lot. I think most people are enjoying it because it's making a lot of money.
Yeah, I loved it. And the thing that I really like about it, I like things that are really dark and kind of oppressive sometimes. I don't really know how to explain it, but I don't like things that are like cynical or misanthropic, and it didn't feel cynical or misanthropic to me. My actual favorite moment in the entire movie is at the end of when the seawall crashes and that whole stadium or whatever gets destroyed and gets flooded. There's the scene where Batman goes down and he like lifts the metal part off.
Yeah.
And he starts pulling the people out of the water.
Yeah.
I like that scene a lot because, part of the movie was him inspiring these copycats. The Riddler was sort of following Batman, but he didn't understand that Batman had like good intent, basically.
Right. That was part of the Riddler's problem is that the Riddler projected his own mission onto Batman.
Yeah.
And he thought Batman was his partner.
Yeah. And what I liked about that scene is Batman inspired these terrible copycats with his sort of, just going out and not explaining anything, just beating the shit out of people, thinking you just, destroy and beat the shit out of people to change things.
Right.
He spawned these copycats, but in the same way, in that moment where he's like pulling people out of the water, you see other people helping. He's making other copycats by doing something good.
Right. That's part of why this Batman was so deep, because if you wanted to sum up the entire arc of the movie, like the true story of the movie, it's a Batman who's been working in Gotham City for 2 years. He's frustrated because as far as he can tell, he's made no progress.
Yeah.
And with
the Riddler, he's kind of made it worse in a way.
Right. Right. He said crime's up, and now we've got people like the Riddler in town. Yeah. He said, is that my fault? So he's feeling frustrated because he can't say that he's done any good whatsoever.
Yeah.
And his mission and his tactics have all been fear and retribution and vengeance.
Yeah.
That's almost a catchphrase of his in the movie, that he's vengeance.
Yeah.
So that's what he wants.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm vengeance.
Yeah.
So he's vengeance for what happened to him and for every other person in the city. He meets a boy during the movie who's living the same situation as him. His parents gone.
Yeah.
So for everybody like that, he is revenging all of those incidents of crime. But throughout the movie and at the very end, he learns that the reason he's not making a difference is because that's not enough to make a difference in that city.
Yeah.
And like you said, when he's helping those people out, that's when it finally hits him that the Batman can't make a difference by just beating people up.
Yeah.
And being scary. He has to be what he said is a symbol of hope to the people of Gotham City as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie is really dark and it feels hopeless in ways, but it's not hopeless. It is a little bit there.
And that's the whole reason that it's like that.
Yeah.
Because that was the story that Matt Reeves was telling. It was a hopeless situation in a hopeless city, but it turns out it didn't have to be that. Yeah. So that's great. That's awesome. Which means if we get another Batman movie, which I'm sure we will, the tone is probably going to be different because Batman's going to be different in the next movie. He's learned something in this movie. All right, some of my favorite moments. First of all, and I know we just said all that about hope.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of beatdowns in this movie where the Batman, I have never seen a beatdown like this. Not very often in any movie, but certainly not in a Batman movie. So the first few minutes of the movie, this guy's on a subway. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And this gang is joking around.
Yeah.
And they see him get off the subway and they're like, oh, let's go get him. So they're about to knock this guy out. And then Robert Pattinson. Batman comes strolling out and he's just standing there. And they're laughing. They're like, who's this guy? What is this guy doing? So one of the gang members steps to him and Batman savagely beats his ass into jelly. And I thought, oh my God. Woo! That is a Batman of vengeance. He beat his ass. It was crazy.
Yeah, he was not screwing around.
This is the I'm not playing around at all. I'm not playing with you. This is not a game, Batman.
Yeah.
100%.
And it almost like pushes it a little too far with how much Batman can take as far as like getting hit and stuff like that. But it doesn't, like when he takes all his gunshots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he still gets hurt from him. I don't know.
In this version of the Batman, his suit is essentially body armor.
Yeah.
Not like putty armor, but like metal. So like you said, what did he take? 20 shots in the movie?
Yeah.
I've never seen
He takes a lot of shots. You can tell he still feels it though.
Yeah. Sometimes it
and
knocks
especially
him down.
later in the movie when he gets hit with that shotgun.
Yeah.
He's like really out of it. Just to give himself the adrenaline shot.
You know what's funny is He was shot by rifles too. The rifle is actually going to do more damage than a shotgun.
Yeah.
The rifle is more dangerous in terms of penetrating that body armor. And
movie logic, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I have never seen. See, yeah, this Batman is not. He's not doing theatrical moves. He's not making a big show out of like jumping down on his enemies. He basically just walks in the front door and beats you in the face. You try to shoot him, he just keeps walking at you and then beats you in the face. He's no muss, no fuss. This is the no frills Batman. Yep. This is I'm wearing something, you can't kill me. I'm just gonna walk towards you and beat you into the ground, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it happens constantly in the movie. It's hilarious. Like you said, the first time it happened, it shocked me because you're not used to seeing that.
Yeah.
You're not used to seeing somebody like Michael Keaton got shot as Batman one time and he fell on the ground. He's out. And the criminals go over there and say, "What is this?" "Oh, some kind of body armor." And then Batman, beats him up.
Yeah.
This guy, he just, the bullets are bouncing off and he just keeps fighting them like nothing happened. It's crazy. Yeah, I love that first beatdown in the movie. That actually sets the tone so perfectly for me. Yeah. Let's see. Other things that I really enjoyed. The one line that was almost a joke was when he's talking to Catwoman. And they're talking blah, blah, blah. And she's got a glass of milk, of course.
Yeah.
And these cats are walking around his feet. He just looks down. It's a perfect... The comedic time is because of the timing is what makes it so funny.
Yeah.
So he looks down, the cats are walking around his feet, and he says, "Got a lot of cats." And it's actually not funny at all, but for some reason it was. I guess in the absence of any joke at all, that's as close as you get to one. Is that line?
Yeah, there's humor in it, but it's not like jokes. It's not one-liners.
Yeah.
I like holy rusted metal Batman or whatever. What do you say in the old movies?
I love too when. All right, so Batman goes to this. This is where it really showed me even more how different this Batman is. Batman needs to go talk to the Penguin at that club. He knows where it is. So, in any other Batman movie, you would expect him to wait at night to go in through a window, and he's probably going to have to get in a fight and beat some guys up. But basically, he's going to try to sneak in. Or he's going to bust in through a skylight.
Yeah.
Something flashy like that.
You would think so.
This Batman literally goes to the front door, knocks on it. He's like, "Hey, do you know who I am?" And then just walks in and starts punching everybody. Yeah. He starts walking toward the Penguin, and anybody who bothers him, he just punches them. And beats them up. I mean, he's getting his tail kicked constantly in this movie, but he kicks more tail, so he wins.
Yeah. He's just a complete blunt object.
He's a blunt object. He's a hammer. He's a sledgehammer. He's a steamroller. He's a bulldozer.
I love that scene where he's trying to get a Catwoman to get information on those guys in the club. She just like gives up on it and bails at some point.
She said, "I'm out of here." It was cool when he used the camera, the contact camera lens.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Of course, I love the car chase, which we mentioned earlier. That whole car chase was so sweet. The Batmobile was more like a crazily souped up muscle car in this movie than it was some ridiculous Batmobile.
It really drove the motorcycle a lot around, which I kind of like in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, I like that scene where he's running from the police. He's at the top. He's near the top of this building. He goes out the window. And he stops up short, and you can see the look on his face. He's like, "Whoa!" Usually in these movies, the superhero he'll just jump off a building. Who cares? He was like, "Whoa!" Like it took the wind out of him for just like he had to compose himself for just a second, and then he did his squirrel suit thing and jumped off. And
then he hit the parachute.
Yeah,
and he got hit the bridge or whatever.
Yeah, that was even funny too because he pulled that parachute so late, and then like you said, it gets caught up in a bridge, and he just like
this is not veteran Batman. This is amateur 2 years in.
This Batman makes a lot of mistakes, but he's so intense and he's so hardcore that he makes up for his mistakes because he's through sheer force of will. But he is brilliant in the movie. I mean, he's obviously a brilliant man. And of course, all the detective work, which is something else that separates this movie. I love the detective work.
Yeah, I like that it leaned into that a little bit.
The riddles were good, especially that first one.
Yeah.
What does a dead man? What does a dead liar do? What does a liar do when he dies? I can't believe it's something. It's phrased something like that.
Yeah, he lies down.
He lies
I forget
still.
what it is. Yeah, still.
Yeah, that was a great line. That was a great riddle. Yeah, the riddles were good.
That was the only thing that kind of bugged me in the movie, as far as like Batman being maybe a little too capable. Is like, he reads those riddles and just has it instantly. Like maybe let him chew on it for a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I love the detective work. I love that.
The
that
detective
element
work
of it. It
was
leans
good.
into it.
And it wasn't like he just plugged it into, I'll plug it into the Bat computer.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. He did use a computer, but it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Where you have a magic Bat computer that can just do anything. He used it like a computer, like a tool, like anybody would use a tool.
And you had Alfred trying to break those codes.
Yeah, with a piece of paper.
Yep.
Exactly. They just did detective work in his head. Right. And by gathering information and that sort of stuff. That was great. That was a great version. The scene where Bruce has that moment with Alfred in the hospital was one of the most important scenes of the movie, just in terms of those two characters and what's going on with them. That was a great scene. Now, some stuff that bothered me. Here, all right, a few things that took me out of the movie a little bit. When we first see Catwoman, and they call her that because she's a cat burglar. I don't even think the movie calls her Catwoman.
It doesn't. She's just Selena.
We know who she is because of her name, and she's got cats around, and she's a cat burglar.
Well, the same thing with the Penguin. They just call him Ozzy.
Right. Yeah. She's not Catwoman.
I'm calling them the Penguin and Catwoman, but
yeah, because
she's really they're like Selena and Ozzy in the movie.
Exactly. So the first time that she goes to break into a safe, and she pulls out the Ocean's 11 equipment, and she's got all the tools, and she knows exactly what she's doing. To me, that took me out just a little bit. It's like, I don't know about all that.
I guess I wasn't really bothered
because living in a dump.
Yeah.
It's like you do that, and you get all this money from doing that, and then you live where you live. I don't know about all that.
True. I guess it didn't bother me too much because we didn't really know her backstory.
Yeah.
It wasn't explained in the movie. So I was like, maybe she learned it somewhere.
When she tries to fight Batman the first time, that was great.
Yeah.
Because it took him, it was no effort at all for him.
Yeah.
Because she's just like kicking at him and he's just lifting his foot up or blocking the kick. That was pretty funny. She does kick a little ass later. It's like they flipped the switch. What was weird about the movie is it felt one way for the first two acts, and then the third act when like the big spectacle has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So when all those guys are shooting at the roof and then Batman blows all that glass, all these explosives, that felt so out of character to anything else in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, you rigged all that up. How long did that take? Why did you do that? And then I'm thinking, there are all these people down there. You're just going to drop glass on everybody's head?
Yeah. Well,
and then he just comes flying in.
Yeah, Batman's not thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah. That took me out just a little bit.
He's vengeance.
I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am the Bat. Catwoman fights a little too well, maybe sometimes. To me, that took me out just a little bit. Other than that, I mean, it was just a great movie. I liked it a lot. Now, if you dislike long movies with no jokes, where it's very dour and very grim and people are getting their butts kicked constantly, and you got a psychopathic serial killer wrapping people in duct tape, and you don't like riddles, this is not the movie for you. But
nah, go watch it anyway.
If you enjoy an engaging story full of riddles and detective work with a highly capable, obsessed main character on a mission, all the characters are deep and nuanced and textured, and there's a story arc. And it is a superhero movie, so there are certain things that come with superhero. Well, yeah. Do we call Batman? Of course, he's not, whatever. It's a superhero. I would call him a superhero. Movie. You get the things that come with superhero movies. Yeah. But how is this for a question? Would you say this is your favorite Batman movie or no?
Yeah, probably. It might be my favorite. I don't know.
It's so different to me than any of the other ones that it's almost like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
It sort of just lives in its own land, like it's its own thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a different take on it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with regards to just like dark, gritty Batman, if you're going to do that, it's my favorite in that vein for sure.
And you know what? It was dark and gritty. And sometimes people say dark and gritty.
Yeah,
and all that means is there's a lot of cussing.
Yeah.
Or they show some tits or something like that.
Yeah.
This was dark and gritty in a much more mature way.
Well, yeah, it's in a a real way. Like I said, you see a lot of the actual like crime and poverty.
It was a
in the
non-childish
city. Yeah.
version of dark grittiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice. Anything else about the stuff that went on that you want to talk about in the movie?
I don't know how they would do another one.
Well, that's what I wanted to end on.
In my opinion, I would like it to just be that one.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll do another one.
In the time that we live in, all things are IPs. Mm-hmm. So you try to milk it. You try to milk any successful IP for as much content as you can. That's just those are the times we live in. It's a little cynical, and I think it can end up ruining your property.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they are producing a Penguin TV series.
Interesting.
I honestly don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't need that much Penguin. Really, the Penguin was possibly the thinnest character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was great because Colin Farrell did a great job with him. He had a lot of personality. I don't need a Penguin TV show. I just don't need it.
He was in the movie enough. Yeah, I don't think you need that either.
We didn't mention that the Joker was in the end of the movie. Now, they didn't call him the Joker. He was in Arkham Asylum. The Riddler is captured. He's in the cell next to the Joker. It's clearly who it is. And they talk for a second, and, Joker does his Joker laugh. So we'll see what happens. Actually, I just saw an article today where Matt Reeves is saying that cameo by the Joker does not indicate necessarily that he's going to be in a sequel. Mm-hmm. He's there for but he said that the Joker is as early in his career as the Joker as Batman is in his career as Batman. Yeah. So we have a young Joker and a young Batman. And he's saying he stuck him in there sort of for context, just to maybe set the stage for something or whatever, but he's not necessarily going to be the... And you know what? And we were talking about this earlier. So we're thinking about, you and I both like this movie, and it's a good movie. It's a good take on Batman. It's a fresh take on Batman, and I think it's pretty smart. And so I'm thinking, what would you do next? Because before he made this, Matt Reeves asked himself, how would I even do a Batman movie?
Yeah.
Well, he managed to create a fresh and interesting version of Batman, I think. And so now you're like, well, what the heck do you do next? Batman is a new character, a person who wants to give hope to the city, not just exact vengeance on criminals. So what would you have your Batman do in subsequent movies that didn't just turn it into like cartoon buffoonery?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there needs to be another movie.
I almost think you have to make Batman movies with an eye toward the end of Batman.
Yeah.
That's how Chris Nolan did it. Mm-hmm. In his third movie, Batman was done being Batman.
Yeah.
Those three movies covered his whole career. I almost think that's how you have to do it because, a person can't be Batman for like 25 years, right? Could you?
Probably not, unless you're really jacking yourself up with steroids or something.
At a certain point, you're going to mature. You're going to grow up. You're going to start hurting. You just can't be the That feels like a short-term young man's thing to me.
Yeah. And also, this movie, I feel like, in my head, the term I use is it sits on an aesthetic razor's edge.
That's 100% right.
Yeah.
They are on the razor's edge. If they push it too fast, if the studio gets involved too heavily and they're like, we need this and that and the other, you have to put the Joker in it. More than anything in this world, if they make a sequel to this movie, for the love of God, please do not make the Joker the bad guy. Please don't do that.
No, I agree. I've had enough Joker.
I've had enough. And just from a pragmatic point of view, to me, so if I'm the studio, I'm thinking, okay, I can make sequels out of this. This director clearly knows what he did. And apparently everybody involved is happy to make another one. So Robert Pattinson's like, I'm in. I think Matt Reeves said, I'm in. We'll do it. I think you try to make smart sequels that build on the character, ultimately with an eye of how does Batman end his career as Batman. I think that's what you have to be building towards. You don't have to have a certain number of movies in mind for that, like a trilogy or whatever, or you could. But I think that has to be in your mind, and that's how you develop his character. That's the only arc. Either he dies in doing what he's doing, or he someday grows out of being Batman. That's the only way it can end. So I think maybe you make, bring in some villains, have some stuff happens, have some cool stuff happen, make a sequel or two, And then, if it starts to cool down, well, then maybe you bring the Joker in because everybody's going to be really excited about that.
Yeah.
And give some fresh life to the series. But the last thing I want to see is the Joker. Please don't.
And I think there are some Batman villains that might be a little hard to do in this setting. Like Mr. Freeze or Clayface or something like that.
Oh my God.
Like, how do you do a character like that? In,
Clayface.
Yeah.
Clayface and Mr. Freeze.
Because there's not a lot of the crazier elements of like, it's not like supernatural, but like, a character like Clayface is a little crazy.
Yeah, that is supernatural.
Yeah.
Definitely supernatural.
Yeah.
I want to see Matt Reeves Superman versus Batman. How does Matt Reeves make
Yeah, there's nobody with any real like innate powers in the movie.
Thank God. I don't want any of that. In my mind, this Batman lives in a universe with no superheroes.
Yeah.
None. This is just a guy in the world. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So,
it's self-contained. It doesn't need to be part of anything larger.
I don't want the Joker. Let's throw him away for a little while.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I say
Batman has tons of villains. You have a smorgasbord to choose from.
I say this as I'm talking about the 48th sequel to the Batman, 48th Batman sequel. Anyway.
But it already did some interesting things with not doing the origin story of Batman and all that stuff.
If they never make another sequel, if he makes another one and it stinks, I don't care. At least he made this one. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. Listen, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for sitting with us while we talk about the Batman. Let us know what you think. You're always welcome to hit us up on Twitter at TMC Brewing or to hit us up on YouTube in the comments and let us know what you think. What were your favorite parts of the movie? Did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? If you were going to make a sequel, what would you do? Let us know what you think, and we will see you next week.
Hey.